All right.
So
So today's question is,
today's question is that one.
do you know what it means to take up space? Do you believe that you do? What does or would it look like?
Well, as we've been doing for the last several days, I looked up stuff. Now, taking up space is not a term in the dictionary. So I did go online and research a little bit of, what does take up space mean just in general. Like, you search it in a search engine and see what comes up. And there were some interesting things that, just like yesterday, we had so many different definitions of, what was yesterday? Vulnerability? No.
Yesterday was living in peace.
Living in peace. Oh, peace, right? We looked at peace, and there was much more to that than I thought there was, right? And so this, I think we're going to find today is the same thing in terms of the topic.
I was just realizing how much of a fan we need right there.
Yeah.
But we can't put the fan on because the sound
Of the noise. Yeah, no, I heard yesterday.
While you chat with them, I'm gonna throw the AC on to bring the
Okay,
humidity
that's
down.
cool. So the first thing that I looked up was the more bare bones definition, which is taking up physical space, right? So how big or bulky is something? How much physical space does it occupy? So that's one way of taking up space. And we talked about that a little bit because we did these questions on Tuesday, and we did talk a little bit about taking up space. And at one point, one of the larger folks, I think over 6 foot tall, talked about, well, I have to take up space even if I don't want to, because I physically take up space and I can't help that. I'm taller than most everyone in the room when I enter a room, and so I don't have a choice with that. So there's the aspect of physically taking up space. Then there was psychological or emotional space, and these are ways of occupying. It says way of occupying space assertively and confidently and honoring your wants and needs. And then it has a list here of different ways in which that might happen. Allowing yourself to be seen and heard. Expressing your ideas and opinions with conviction. Being grounded, relaxed, and able to breathe freely. I really like that one. Taking up space, meaning feeling like you can breathe freely. I really like that because there's times and days where I feel like I struggle to breathe, and in a psychological and emotional way. So that really hit home for me. Loving yourself more, being kind to yourself and valuing your time, honoring your achievements, and then letting go of concerns about how others perceive you. To me, that's a big part of this idea of taking up space, right? Like, I can be here and I don't have to be concerned with what you think of me or what your feelings are about me or anything like that. So these are just some great sort of foundations for conversation around this topic. So welcome to those of you that are joining us. This is our 1 hour a day of empowerment through awareness conversation every day at noon, where we're tackling a question a day from our online group mentorship program, which has been really successful and very life-changing for people. So we thought we would just bring it to TikTok and talk about it once a day.
So on the comments we have, taking up space is a sign of healthy strength and self-confidence. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Did you just read that?
Mm-mm. I read it was here. I couldn't read that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's there you go. Thank you for that comment.
Yeah. Emotional support. Brad says,
Hi,
hello,
Emo.
Joshua. Oh, is Zemo, is that how they go by? So I had just read everyone this, so if you want to catch up with that, you can.
So, no, I was listening.
Yeah.
Those are really, I like how well-rounded all that is.
Yeah. I was really blown away on Tuesday by I'm 5'5" and I'm of average height and weight. Like, it never occurred to me that some people go through life physically taking up space and feeling sort of helpless because there's nothing they can do about it. Like, that would be a bad thing. I always think if you're tall, that's cool. Like, it never occurred to me that someone might not feel happy about it or good about it.
You can't be hidden.
Right. You can't not take up space physically. And I could see that as a result, as a consequence, you would go out of your way to make yourself emotional and psychologically small.
So these are all taking up space in a positive connotation.
Yes.
So some people have negative relationships with it.
I didn't get that far in my research today. I should have.
Well, let's check it out.
Okay.
How did you search it?
I just put, what does it mean to take up space in the search engine? I put our question in the search engine and saw what they said. And there was a thing about negatively taking up space. And I can relate to that right off the top. Like I don't think I'm that uncommon in society insofar as being a woman is concerned, but I was a very precocious, enthusiastic, expressive child who was often given the message that I was just too much. And that, coupled with some bullying, coupled with some other kinds of life experiences, and I learned to make myself small. I learned to make myself not the most obvious person in the room. There's a difference between doing it because you feel ashamed and doing it because you feel like you don't deserve it, and doing it out of a sense of humility or a sense of sharing space.
Did you search it on your laptop?
I did search it on a laptop.
Because I'd be curious about the negative.
Yeah. It was on there. Yes, doing some research while we're talking. Being seen and not heard. Yeah, that was a big message when I was a kid. In fact, that message I think was on public service announcements.
And that's for women too, not just as kids.
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely. So, and there was a part of me that always, as a kid, was like, why that? Here's common reasons why people struggle to take up space. So these are, I think, what you were talking about. Low self-esteem,
yes,
social conditioning and upbringing, fear of rejection or judgment, perfectionism, right? You don't want to take up space because you're afraid you'll make a mistake or someone will see you as something other than perfect. People-pleasing, imposter syndrome, lots of reasons why people struggle with taking up space. So clearly we have this hour's work cut out for us.
I'm just grabbing something else to drink.
Yeah, no worries. I'm going to stick with the positive for now because that's the space that I'm in right now. Let's see. Would piss me off. Kids can be seen but present but don't say a word. Right? Exactly. There's another kind of selfish essence to taking up space or too much space. Well, there is such a thing as too much, too little, or not enough taking up space. And I think that, like, if we had a better mindfulness about it, even societally, like, I don't think that kids necessarily are born knowing what it means to take up space, what too much looks like, what too little looks like. And I think that it could be really helpful if that were something kids were taught. Right?
Taught in what context?
Taught in the context of, like self-esteem, you have value, we want to know what you have, and we share space with others. So you don't have to be the biggest and brightest person in the room, but you also don't have to sit in the corner like you don't matter, right? Teaching kids how to value themselves, because I do think there's a selfish stage you go through when, as a small child, like, you don't think there's anybody but you in the world, right? And I think that's a normal part of development. But as adults help you grow up, there could be guidance in the way of, look, you have value, look at, you're smart, you're this, you're that you have these creative ideas, and sometimes we need to let other people have those things too. Rather than making a kid wrong, like, you have too much, you should do less than, right? It's just more from the viewpoint of, we all do, and so together we share space. Right? Like, to me, that would have been an amazing message as a kid, to get that there's nothing wrong with me, there's nothing wrong with my desire to be seen and heard, and that there's value to knowing that other people want to be seen and heard, and we all have the right to do that, and we're all special enough to be seen and heard, and we all bring value to the table, and so there I am being Pollyanna. And kids are narcissistic, they need to be taught. Yes, they need to be taught how to use their voice. Yes, thank you, Starship, I agree. And I think one could have argued that I had a little bit of that going on when I was a kid. I really did think I was the most special kid in the room. I really did sometimes think I was the most talented kid in the room. Like, I could sing and I could do things, and I wanted to, there was a part of me that was super friendly and super gregarious. And, you see little girls that are like that. They're like chatting and they're big and they have big vocabulary even though they're tiny kids. I was one of those kids. But I don't think there's anything wrong with me. But I was made to feel pretty quick like there was something wrong with me. People made fun of me for my vocabulary. People made fun of me for being so verbal. And so then you just start to get smaller, right? Because people tell you there's something wrong with the way that you're being.
So when did you notice that?
That I started making myself small?
That you were making yourself small?
Elementary school. Yeah. In the second grade, I was always the smartest kid in my class. And I don't say that to like be bragging or anything. I just, school came really easy to me. I was super bright. School wasn't hard. I didn't understand it. But in the second grade, I would race to come to class every day to sit in the front row because otherwise I couldn't see the blackboard. Kids would come in and intentionally sit in the back, and I thought they didn't want to see. I couldn't even see the colored chalk on the blackboard from the back seat. I thought everybody saw like I did, right? So shortly into the second grade, off we go to the eye doctor, and I come back with glasses. So now, not only am I the smartest kid in the class, but I'm the four-eyed little girl with glasses. Oh no, big deal. And I started making myself small right away because I thought if I could just not be seen, then you couldn't make fun of me. And that started right. That's the earliest memory I have. The opposite of how that started is I remember going to kindergarten and being so excited because apparently I started, my vocabulary started when I was like 3. So here I am 5 years old going to school where I'm going to learn stuff. And I get to the kindergarten and these kids their parents are leaving them off and they're crying their heads off. And I looked around like, do these kids know something I don't know? Like, is something bad about to happen? Like, I was like, should I be afraid? Like, I had no idea, right? So the me that went to kindergarten was the bright, verbal, excited, ready to learn kid. And by the second grade, I was the made fun of kid who just wanted to, like, sit in the corner and be invisible. That's what it was like for me. You wonder why I'm still unraveling trauma at this point.
Well, yeah,
point in my life. Like, I have no question.
When did you start taking action to change that? What brought you to the awareness that said, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm not comfortable with this feeling?
Directly? I don't know. Probably in recent years. I mean, as some of you know, at 29, I stopped drinking because I needed to. And I started doing recovery-focused things. And so over time, I began to be able to address things like that. I began to be able to address what my childhood was like and, the trauma that I had suffered. And that's like 30 years ago. It's before things like, the body keeps the score and all the things we talk about trauma now. But I did what I could with it, right? I started to recognize some of it at that point and see, because a lot of that stuff fueled even my drinking. I drank from the time I was very young. And alcohol, for me, made those feelings better. They lessened those feelings. They made me feel less isolated. They made me feel less alone or less like I cared, right? Like if I sat home by myself at 13 or 14 drinking, it comforted me. It made it okay, even for just a few hours, that was what the rest of my life was like, that my life was so challenging socially.
Less like I cared. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, because I couldn't do it. It was very disempowering to feel like there's nothing you can do to make kids stop. Right? It's a very powerless feeling to know that there's nothing.
Of being bullied, yeah.
And knowing that you can't stop it. Like, I didn't know much about superheroes back then. I didn't really see anything like that. But if I could have been a superhero, right, like with superpowers, that I could have made those kids stop, right? Like even as psychotic now today as I think a Homelander, right? Like,
I'm sorry, Mama.
It's okay. Listen, it made me who I am.
Yeah, but I mean, I used to protect people like that. Like Aaron and I. Aaron was a quiet kid.
Yeah.
And they would fucking pick on him. Nope. Not happening.
I needed a you when I was a kid.
No, listen, it's heartbreaking.
I needed a hero. I didn't have any heroes.
Bullies are not good people.
And bullies are not just boys, I want to tell you.
Oh, the girls are even...
The girls are
Crazy.
worse. Yeah.
So just for the record, the reason why I'm devouring this lemonade and it's so yummy is because I had some herbal remedies earlier, and
water's not getting it.
water's not getting it. This is that blueberry simply lemonade. So,
do you need to go get more?
yes.
Go get more. I'm going to try to not continue to bore you all with my my story of childhood.
But what's cool
But-
is you're processing taking up space.
It's where I learned. It's where I learned to not take up space. It's where I learned to try to not be seen and heard. And then the flip side of that is, I do it. I end up doing it inadvertently.
You know what I just realized?
What?
You're so service oriented, so you stay small,
That's a coping skill, sure.
right? Because oftentimes it's like, Mama, talk to the people.
Right.
Stop doing things, because you need to be in your space. Right? Wow, it just clicked.
Yeah. Well, explain to them what you mean.
So, I got my lemonade. I should have put seltzer in it. Sorry. So when we host events, we all chip in. We're all putting shit together to the last minute. Kat deals with a lot of the food and beverage and stuff like that while I'm moving all the furniture around and what have you. But she'll stay in host mode and not in small H host, right? As opposed to big H host, where you're there connecting with the people.
Right.
Right? And it's like, you're great at it, but you get so caught up in doing that that you aren't representing yourself. You're not there as yourself. You're there as a caretaker.
I think that's accurate. I think taken care of, and I got good at it.
Really good at it.
Well, some of it's the childhood piece. We've heard me talk about that. Like when my mom died, my dad said, "Okay, you're going to take care of me and your sister now." I was put in the role of caretaker at the age of 11, but caretaking is a great way to not be a target. Caretaking is a way to have value that doesn't require you to be seen and heard, right? If I'm taking care of things, then you don't have to know how big my vocabulary is. You don't have to know how bright I am or the things I think or how I really feel. I can simply be valued for what I can do.
My worth. This is I have a purpose here.
I'm a human being. I'm a human doing. I'm not a human being, right? And there's lots of stuff swirling around. Yeah, so that's some of where that all stems from for me. So when we started in very recent times talking about this thing, and it's a more modern thing, I think, for me anyway, of talking about taking up space, right? It's interesting to really dive into what my history is with it, because it's bigger than just the common time, the most recent time where people talk about it like it's a thing now to talk about it. I'm umming, but... So yeah, so that's a little bit about my history with taking up space. And much to his encouragement, sometimes admonishment, I have pushed myself to come out from behind my desk, out from behind the kitchen counter and into spaces so that people can know me and I can know them and take up an appropriate amount of space. I mean, as the event, like as the person whose party it is, like there's no one more qualified to take up space than me in the room. And so I need to at least take up what is my appropriate amount of space. And I think that my coming up to that line means I run the risk of feeling once again like I'll be taking up too much space, and any minute now someone will be getting on me for it and, you know, telling me that I'm inappropriate and that I whatever, and that I'll hear that all over again.
Now, you know, as your partner, when you take up more space, it helps me out a lot more.
Because you're the one who always takes up the space.
Because-
In an obligated
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Not because you're trying to bluster about.
No, because we have to host.
Yeah.
Right? So when you come up, I get a breather.
See, now, I could do it for no more reason than that.
Yeah.
Because then that's you're not pulling your weight thing.
Well, no. It's a help.
Right. Right.
It's not about pulling weight, but it's about knowing that I can help.
Yeah. Then I can help in that way.
Yeah.
See? I hope you guys are getting some out of these calls, because we sure are.
That's why I love talking. I love talking about this stuff because you learn so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just gonna write pulling weight, even though that's not what
No,
was
but
meant. But that's
that's
gonna
not
remind me.
That's not a bad way. You're able to see
yes,
this, right?
yes,
'Cause
yes,
people
yes.
are writing all kinds of stuff. I want to make sure we're not missing people.
So we were talking about narcissistic kids. Just kidding. There was
every kid. They're born that way.
That was the comment.
Yeah.
And there was
developmental stage.
There was one who said it's not the same, and they could learn some humility. And then I don't want to be recognized for the services I do a majority of the time, except by my partner. Let me read that one. I don't want to be recognized for the services I do a majority of the time, except by my partner.
Well, I mean, by that do we mean we don't want to be seen as a human doing, or we don't necessarily need to have credit taken for all the things we do, except we want our partner to notice or to acknowledge all the things that we do?
Because I feel that in the sense of, if I'm here and providing service, like my thing about gratitude, or what is it, the A word, I forget, but it's when you acknowledge someone for the shit that they do.
Okay.
Affirming. I don't
Okay.
know. So I don't want to be recognized. If I'm supposed to be doing this, you don't have to thank me.
Well, this is the thing about how you were before you understood what validation was about.
Yes.
You know, you were like, why should I pat you on the back if you're doing something you should be doing anyway?
Right?
Right.
So it's like, but then when you do it, it's a service.
When I validate someone, or when I do something?
When you don't do something for me, it's a service. And it's like, of course, thank you, because you're providing this for me.
Yeah.
Right? And then the same. It's
Yeah.
like,
And I've always been of the mindset that, like, we always have the option to not do what we're supposed to do. People always have the option to, like, fall short, not show up, not measure up, not fulfill their obligations. And so it's not that you deserve a pat on the back, but I do believe that words of encouragement, when you do those things, simply encourage you to do them and do them more.
do them more, yeah.
Right? Like whenever I was the manager, there, everybody that left for the day, I said thank you. Right? Yes, it's your job. Yes, you were supposed to show up, whatever. But I don't say, see you tomorrow. Like, as a manager, I said thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for showing up. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Like,
And you start at 9.
Well,
you start at 9. You don't get here at 9.
Don't start me on punctuality.
I'm that guy. 9 o'clock is when you start.
No, as a manager, I used to say to servers, if your in time is at 5 o'clock, I expect to look up and see you in your uniform in your station at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I have a start time is at 9 o'clock thing too. I do.
Because I want a running start. I want to.
Yeah, no.
But then again, I put myself into shit.
Right.
It's like,
Early's on time late. And then at the end of the day, I say thank you.
or, being that a lot of it could be manual labor, I'll just work you harder to the equivalent of the time you've missed. That's the other
You're
Marine.
a task driver. That's the
other
Marines.
Marine.
That's like whenever our friend, and starts talking, I'm like, that's when I know it's the military stuff coming out in you when I hear you talk like that.
Yeah.
And it's pretty funny.
So we were talking. I was reading these.
The comments.
All right. So, how many days have we been up? I've been up since August. I'm always the caretaker. Always. This is about the narcissism. Their entire life, up to a point, the world is shown to revolve around them. Thus, how are they that? Oh, it jumped. How are they that?
I just don't want us to miss your comments, because we're having this chat every day, and I want to hear from you all. I want to know what you all have to say. So it means doing this little scroll thing.
Yeah. Anyway, it was good. It was good. Ghost coming through the window. There was some good back and forth on children being narcissists.
Well, we didn't even, there was a time where nobody even knew what the word narcissist was or meant. Right now we throw it around like everybody.
Now it's just called brat. Or then it was called.
Then it was called brat.
All right, so You said you didn't want to go into the negative space, and then we went into the negative space.
Right, and then I came back.
No, but it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
So let's go over this list really.
Okay.
Because the relevancy of taking up space and the journey is about knowing your value, knowing your worth, knowing you have the right to be where you're at, knowing that you take up space as an entire person until you choose otherwise. Like the service we were talking about providing in a space. I choose to pick this shit up. I choose to submit my time and energy to a certain person or a certain cause. But until then, I'm a whole person. I deserve to be where I'm at. Building that confidence to get to those places where you can take up the space. And
there we go. These topics build on each other. Confidence was the first one. Now we see how confidence impacts taking up space.
It's crazy. It's a term that's used too much, and only professionals know what that excess is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, narcissism is certainly overused and misunderstood.
So things that keep you small, and I'm going to run through this list, and I'll talk about how, in relation to BDSM, all this is very specific.
Mm-hmm.
Let me raise this just a little bit. Makes the window sound like it's going to fall every time. Oh, don't do that, please. Just do that. All right. So, low self-esteem. The person feels small. The person feels... this is when it comes to helping a person find their grounding within the journey.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Small, insecure, unsafe, right? And it's like looking for something to grab onto to feel some ground.
Right.
Social conditioning and upbringing, culture, big time.
Yeah.
Unlearning culture in the sense of finding your own identity beyond who you were told you are.
Right. And I think there's a lot of cultures. I mean, I know as a woman, there's a lot of cultures that really emphasize women should be seen and not heard, right? Women only have value to the degree that they can show up and take care of spouses and children, and that exists. It exists and exists differently across cultures.
Now, what's cool about this, as you're talking about it, is, and this is a taking up space question.
Mm-hmm.
If a person who's a female-bodied or femme presenting, if you're in a space that challenges you for taking up space as a woman, that is your place to ask them, well, tell me why. Why do you feel that way? And it'll give them an opportunity to process that shit. To process maybe a belief they don't know that they have until they're actually saying it. Wow, because of X or they'll come to the reason why.
It's very hard to imagine being in that headspace that you get brought to when you are in throes of you're being too much. That requires a level of confidence that you almost don't have by design for having been made small. So to have the power to be empowered enough to say to somebody, well, what do you mean? Why shouldn't I take up space?
This is just a revelation off of this. Because that's a big step.
Yeah. No,
that's for the person that is standing in the room that knows they deserve to be there and that has the ability to challenge the question. I
could almost see from a self-healing journey to be able to go back and say, hey, do you want to explain to me why it was this way? Like, as you become aware of the fact that you haven't taken up space and all the reasons why you haven't taken up space, and now you choose to, and you're in that learning, because whenever we have to change something, there's a learning curve, right? There's a period of time where you're learning how to do it and you don't exactly know how to do it yet. There would be value to going back to caregivers and original sources of that stuff and say, hey, when I was whatever, you taught me that I should be. There would be value to going back to caregivers and original sources of that stuff and say, hey, when I was whatever, you taught me that I should be seen and not heard, whatever it is. And I don't know why that was. Can you tell me why that was? Right? Because it's important to have these conversations in a way that doesn't make anybody wrong, so you can actually get on it. Because otherwise everybody gets defensive and nobody wants to say what's really going on, right? So if you can come at it from curiosity, you can come at it from, look, I'm healing from it. Like, I don't hold anything against you, but I'm really curious. Why would that have been? What was it about the way that you thought or the way that you were raised? Because ultimately it always boils down to that. Like somebody only made me small because someone made them small, right? Like, and so where did you get that? Like, how did you learn that? And then I think really productive conversations can come out of that, and healing can come out of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Fear of rejection or judgment. I suffer from that.
Yeah, say more.
It's the feeling in my body of being rejected it's so, I really don't like it. So I would just not.
Like stay quiet or smaller to not run the risk of being rejected.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating because you're like, from the outside, you're like the last guy in the room to want to be rejected.
No.
But you know what? That's just evidence to the fact that we never know what somebody's feeling like on the inside, right? No matter what they look like to us on the outside, you know, we all feel stuff on the inside. People who see you would have no idea that you had a fear of being rejected. But the beautiful thing about it is you're human, and you do have that sort of thing too, right? So thank you for saying that.
I'm not human. Me.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I got something in my eye, but that's very fair. Thank you, Mama.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal.
Perfectionism.
Yeah, that's the fear of making mistakes.
Do you experience that?
No.
Not as perfectionism.
No. It's not fear of making mistakes. It's fear of being ridiculed, fear of being judged, fear of the other things that makes me want to stay small, right? Because the truth is underneath it all, I know I'm not perfect. I don't pretend to be perfect, but I'm okay with what I am. I'm okay with how much I do know. I'm okay with how much I can bring to the table. What I'm really not okay with is being met with the kind of criticism that says I have no value.
I'm going to come back to the fear of rejection.
Okay.
Because it's not like it's not like the fear is off of you. The fear is, how dare I ask? Right? So like the fear of rejection isn't, well, you should say yes, and I'm upset that you rejected me. It's the idea that I'm not worthy of asking for what I'm asking.
There was something wrong for you for asking in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's a way of staying small, is not expressing what we need, not asking for what we need.
Mm-hmm.
You do that. There is a part of you that does that.
Does what?
That gets quiet when it would be appropriate for you to step in and say, I need this, I want this. Because it would be better all the way around, but your fear of not being met with either a yes, okay, or you're all right for having asked keeps you from asking or saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Totally see that. Well, I hope that I don't do anything to... I hope I can always make you feel like it's okay to say.
You do, Mama, you do.
Yeah, right? Okay, we're both not here because we're all there.
Imposter syndrome. Let's see. I feel imposter syndrome almost every time before the next big thing.
Yes.
So like when we were setting up for the gallery down in the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
On the way down, and I still don't grasp the weight of it.
Mm-hmm.
But but even the idea of that it's happened.
No,
right?
we keep looking at each other and saying, you know, we have art at the World. We keep looking at each other. We're artists. We keep trying to like make it real to ourselves, like the enormity of what's going on. In fact, I think that's part of why when I came in the door earlier, I was just like overwhelmed with emotion because there's like so much going on right now, and a lot of it's really good, like good in a way that I never saw coming. It's almost scary. So anyway, yeah, I came in earlier and was all weepy. That should be a surprise to you now here on
Have
TikTok.
you cried yet?
Not so far.
Okay, good.
But I did a lot of crying before now.
Let's see if we can hold out for 24 more minutes.
Good morning, Britt. Good to see you. Yes, imposter syndrome is huge. I had imposter syndrome going down for the first Thursday class. We've been teaching classes together. Like, I've been teaching for a bazillion years, but we've together been teaching the same kind of classes, no joke, for 7 years. And we were on our way to the World Trade Center to teach the first Thursday class. And I was like, oh my God, do we remember everything? Is it going to be okay? What are we going to teach? Do we know what we're teaching? like it was the first class we were teaching.
Yeah.
And there was a part of me that watched me do it and say, you're really being kind of silly. Like, you know what you're doing. And even if you forget something, it's like, it's okay. Like, I've also come to the point that now it's a game with myself. Whenever I pack to go somewhere, to an event, wherever we need something, I make a list, I check it twice or 3 or 4 or 5 times. And then invariably I forget something. And I used to beat myself up for it. Now it's a game. I'm like, I wonder what I'm going to forget this time. And I don't do it on purpose. And I really do give it my best effort to remember everything we need. And then I'm like, let me see when I'm going to find out what the thing is that I didn't remember.
Yeah, last time on opening day, we forgot a lot of shit. It was like, I don't even know what's happening. Like,
yeah, I know it's new. Oh, sorry. And, but I think the fact that we can laugh a little bit about it, that we've come to the place where we can recognize, because we've been hard on each other around it because of, I think, the pressure we put on ourselves. I put pressure on me, so sometimes I put pressure, and you do the same thing. It's the pressure on you that makes you put the pressure on me. But then when we can get to the place where like, okay, so we forgot this, so, it's all right. It's not the end of the world. Like, it makes it easier to want to move through these things, honestly, and less stressful.
Yeah. People pleasing.
People pleasing.
The worry of burdening others or creating conflict can hinder some people from ever or rarely prioritizing their own wants and needs.
And as I read through this, some of this taking up space thing is understanding that we have wants and needs, that we have a right to them. We have a right to express them, and even a right to expect them to be met sometimes. Just because I have a need or a want and I express it doesn't obligate you to meet it. But I'm never going to get it met if I don't show up and say what I want or need. Like, then then I can be 100% sure my needs and wants will never be met if I don't show up and speak to them. Like, because people don't have crystal balls. People are not mind readers.
And at the same time, as hosts, we do have to please people.
Yeah.
Right? It's like we're facilitating, right?
Yes.
And I do my best to make them comfortable and safe enough to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Right? To open the doors for conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think we're both good at it. It's why we do what we do. But that still doesn't mean it isn't challenging sometimes to do it for ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It still isn't hard to say to myself, I have the right to show up and ask my questions and have my needs and wants and say I don't know when I don't know and not be ridiculed for it. Right? I don't know that doing it well for other people makes it any easier to doing it for yourself. So not taking up space through hyper-independence.
Yeah. So not taking up space through hyper-independence.
Sorry, I keep whispering because I assume you all are reading the chat and I'm the last one to see it.
Imposter syndrome is big for me when having problems in my dynamic and I say I can't teach what I'm failing at. I'd be interested to hear more about that, Coach Lo.
Yeah, I don't know. I have thoughts about that. I'll have to think out some more. But
let's see, trauma or negative experiences, such as bullying and emotional abuse, can make individuals, you were talking about that earlier.
No question.
Anxiety and social anxiety, not knowing what to expect, how they will be perceived or whether or not they'll be liked or accepted can deter people from being an engaged or visible presence in their work, school, and community.
Mm-hmm.
First day of school, first day of work.
Right, that kind of anxiety. But just general anxiety. Like I have anxiety, or I've struggled with it over the years. And when I have it, when it's activated in me, it is much harder to want to show up and take space and be seen.
I had to do that when I was pledging with Onyx. I had to make myself small. As a pledge, yeah. Not because I had so much experience under my belt.
Yeah.
So the idea was exactly that. There was a level of anxiety around it because I don't want anyone to feel like I'm the head honcho.
But that's the stuff from when I was 3, right? The fact, I did in early years throw that over. People used to say to me, oh, and pardon me, I'm going to date myself, right? Oh, look at you using those 75-cent words, because back then 75 cents was actually something. Using those 75-cent words.
What's inflation brought it up to?
Oh, probably. Let's call them $5 words now.
I was thinking $5 words.
The point being that I was being made fun of for using words because people were accusing me of using them as if I was trying to make them feel small. When really, like, all I was doing was trying to communicate something as clearly as I could. So if you have access to a whole bunch of words and they all mean different things, why wouldn't you seek to use the one that most clearly communicates what you're trying to say? And that's not me trying to hurt anybody, make anybody feel bad or wrong. I'm just trying to be seen and heard, understood. But what would come at me was, this sort of dismissing of me because I was using, big words that people thought I was, why do you got to use words like that? And then I was an early adult when I said, you know what? I have a vocabulary and I know why I'm using it. And if it makes you feel insecure, that's on you.
So the remedy to that is learn more words. They don't have to be big words. Right? Because the more words you have in your vocabulary, the better you'll be able to describe it.
The more clearly you can communicate.
Because I'm not a big word guy. I'm a Barney style crayon eating.
And then I watch you write things and I'm thinking,
but I
speak
way more words than I think.
Stuff. Yeah, I know. But
it's Hans Zimmer. Thank you for the birthday gift.
You're welcome.
My birthday's in October, but we got tickets to go see a live orchestra doing Hans Zimmer's top 12 movie soundtracks.
Right, but we're gonna go 2 weeks after your birthday, so it's your birthday gift.
Yes. All right. So, eating disorders and related conditions.
Eating disorders are a physicalized version of let me see how small I can make myself. There's no lie there. Like, people who suffer from eating disorders, and I'm eating disorder adjacent. I understand it. I have I don't qualify clinically, but I understand it. And yes, there's a desire to essentially be invisible. Right? Because if you don't, the hyperbolic extension of anorexia is disappearing.
Yeah. Understanding that there's all types of people in the community that all fall on the spectrum of different lived or living experiences. Mm-hmm. Being able to have open conversations about that is very important because it's a fact, right? And more often than not, it's not a choice. It's what the person's experiencing at the moment. Gender and stereotypes, sexes and perceived gender roles and stereotypes can play a role in how people behave in certain social situations. In most metropolitan areas, the BDSM community, as I've seen it, at least the pansexual and the queer community, not the queer community, at least in the metropolitan areas, the queer community, the het community, and I can't say the gay community, because they're like subsects of the larger BDSM community. Will sexism be a lot less of an overtone happening? Once you leave the cities, you see a big change in how gender roles and stereotypes play in the smaller communities across the country. It's evolved over time in the cities, but as you travel across the country, you'll see that in different venues. I've experienced it going to a queer party here in New York years ago, because I walked in how I dressed, and everyone was dressed however the fuck everyone else was dressed. This was my first time here, right? And what if I'm not comfortable dressing a certain way or presenting a certain way yet? Or I was planning on changing when I got here, and then you guys hit me with a wall because I'm this cis het guy as you perceive me, and you haven't given me a chance to even connect. And it was like there was a big disconnect. And
you know what the good news about that experience was? You started doing your own events.
Because why would you want to go out and feel that?
Exactly.
Fuck that.
Exactly.
No, I was talking about it yesterday in the open dungeon.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Matt, and you had the two men playing. You had You had all types of people playing, all types of orientations playing, all types of representation and spectrums playing.
Right, all together in the
All
same
together in the
space,
same
with no
space.
judgment.
And everyone was comfortable, and that's all that I want. I
Yeah.
want people to feel
Yeah.
that they can take up space. Come in and be you.
Yeah.
And I don't want anything less. If you're gonna give me less, get out.
Well, he's not that harsh, I promise.
No,
You
no.
can come in and start small. It's all right.
Yeah. Get out of your shell.
Till you get comfortable.
But yeah, it's not a and with Onyx as well, the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not a comfortable.
No, I mean, I had, my similar experience years and years ago, the first time I went to a club, and had that experience of being hit on and, no safety and looking around, and there was nobody to run the space. And I didn't know I was going to I didn't know my future held being a space owner and doing all that stuff. But there was a feeling that day where it's like, I would never want anyone to feel in an event that I hosted like I had felt in that moment. Just it was a terrible feeling. And again, like that feeling like you're in an environment and people are being bullies, and in this case, sexual bullies. And it was like there was no one to help, there was no one to step in or to change anything, right? And I was like, no one should feel like this. And so later, when I became an event host, I was like, now nobody gets to be like that in my space.
Yeah, look at that.
That's where that came from.
Cultural inequity. Minorities and people existing in marginalized communities who have experienced in inequalities may not feel safe or empowered to advocate for themselves or seek out new opportunities. I understand that, and I've experienced it in a couple of different ways. I have a very particular approach to cultural inequity as a Latino who looks white, who lived in a black neighborhood, who wasn't accepted by anybody. I had to make my own way, and I couldn't hold it against anybody because it's my struggle to overcome. If I meet you and you treat me as you treat everyone else and you haven't even met me, that in and of itself is going to shut the door for me, because I don't care who you are, what your life has given you. I'm not projecting any of these insecurities onto you that you may have felt outside of these doors. So it's like,
I'm trying to understand, because when you said, if you treat me any differently than you treat others.
Meaning, so when I would go downtown with my friends, we would get followed around in the store, right? It's generally not a white person experience, right? So to be stopped, to be searched and all that shit is a process. Now, I understand that that's part of, because of who I was with, who I am, where I came from. There's circumstances that created that because of stereotypes, and I get it. If I walk into a space and the person doesn't look at me up and down, I'm not going to wait for them to look at me up and down, because they're not receiving me that way. So I'm not going to come in the victim. And I look at a lot of the equality and inequality when it comes to a lot of this stuff as, if I gave up my struggle, what did I live for?
Is this the lecture that I heard one day? A black woman was giving a TED talk, and she said, if you tell me that you don't see color, it means you're telling me you don't see me, because I'm a black woman. So to say you don't see race, yes, or to say you don't see color is to negate who I am. This is that
I bump up against, because it's like, I see you and I'm not going to treat you any different than I treat anybody else, so don't treat me any different.
Because there was my confusion in the language. Like, I should just treat you as a person and not by any of the markers, which means if I'm that way, I should be that way across the board. And you have to do it. You can't talk the shit. Like, it has to be across the board. Right.
Because if I walk into a space and I don't have a voice, I'm not fucking coming. Why am I here?
Right.
Right? There was one time at Decadence, and this fucking blew my mind. There was this Jewish woman that came in, and she goes to me, she goes, why don't you just turn your parties over to someone from a marginalized community? Use your privilege. And I said, come again? And she looks at me.
Somebody did that on my watch?
Yeah, and she looked at me. And I go, you know I'm Latino, right? And I said, and I would be happy to help people learn how to do it if they showed up. But no one's just gonna walk in here and take what I fucking have. It doesn't work that way. You gotta put your time in and earn this shit. And I don't care who you are. Anyone can walk through my door and learn. But I'm not gonna fucking chase you to teach you. You don't deserve anything you don't work for. And I don't care who that is.
No.
And this is my thing about that. If I'm holding a space and someone doesn't know, everyone's gonna have a voice. Everyone's gonna have a voice. Now, if I'm in another space and I see that happening, it's my responsibility to speak up on it too, right? Because I'm responsible for this everywhere I go. And I will treat people how I treat people, and I expect to be treated the same. But if someone isn't upholding what it means to be a good fucking human being and not allowing a person to exist in their space, I have a problem with that too. So it's
I think that's because some people would argue, well, if it's not your space, it's not your place. I'm not having that argument.
No, I understand.
Right? So it's a matter of like, and this is why we do this, because some of this is a matter of what are your values, what is ethical to you, what are your morals, right? What does it mean to be who you are, and how is it that you show up, right? If I believe in equality, if I believe in everybody has a right to exist, and I show up in a space and that's not happening, what do I do? What is my value? Where am I acting with the most amount of integrity? Do I just shut my mouth and say, well, it's not my problem, it's not my space, or do I show up and say something because it's what I believe in?
So there was a time we were in a dungeon in Texas, and you had that fucking guy, right? And learning what the dynamics were, what was happening. It was gender inequality, inequity, big time, and I was a guest of the person hosting us, and they were connected to the person, so I see it. And what I did was I sat with the guy to start learning who he was, to get an idea of who he was. And you were learning who this guy is. And then we put our brains together, yours bigger than mine in this case, and we spoke with our friend and said, hey, listen, this is what we see. Why? Like, what do you think of this that we're presenting you? And it was a way to address it, and we didn't stick it out, and we were respectful of the space because we didn't overstep the boundaries of being a good visitor.
Yeah,
right?
And I think that's important, right? So there's that, who are we and what do we believe and how do we think we should show up in the world, and as grown-ups, as mature grown-ups, how do we do it in a way that doesn't necessarily like be offensive to everyone? Or, you know, there's ways to finesse these things that's somewhere between blustering about trying to be right all the time and just keeping your mouth shut because you say it isn't my problem.
Last one, lack of role models. Individuals who've grown up with or been surrounded by others with submissive tendencies, low self-esteem, or conditions that have caused them to feel othered are less likely to be assertive or forthright. Now, this is awesome. With submissive tendencies, right? And this is my thing about labels and understanding that you can have submissive traits. You can have submissive desires, but a person isn't submissive. A person isn't dominant. It's like you have these characteristics of confidence, of dedication, of service and stuff like that. That's why you have to learn, what does submission mean to you,
right?
Versus submissive tendencies. Someone who leans into being smaller and allowing someone else to lead.
Which is way different than not making yourself seen and heard out of low self-esteem, out of believing you don't deserve it, out of, you know, because I think a lot of those things are confused for submission, right? Or people hide their hurts or hide their fear of stepping into some space behind being submissive.
You know what we're gonna do after? Because we're not gonna make it in 30 days. Isn't enough time to. I mean, we're gonna cover a lot of questions.
Yeah.
But for the next month, we'll do power exchange.
Okay.
Because this is a very important part.
Yeah.
A person, if you walk into a space and you are not in a power exchange, you are nobody submissive. You aren't. You don't belong to anybody. No one commands you. No one gives you orders. I mean, unless there's a fire breaking out and like they're fucking, get out of the door, right? That's a different scenario. But you deserve to take the space, to be in the space that you inhabit, right? You're there for the same purpose, for the same reason, or you stumbled across it, but you are a whole person who is looking to connect with people who see you and respect you for your value as you will them.
Yeah.
So,
as a total aside, Emo is calling you all out for not tapping the screen. Just saying. That means you're not sending us hearts, right?
yes.
Send us hearts.
Yes,
Just
please.
Please send us hearts.
So
or teddy bears, or gummy bears, or whatever you want to send.
Then there was and I didn't even get to the part yet. It was fucking 12:57.
I looked up. I'm like, where did this hour go?
So there's the layers of taking up space.
Yeah.
Right. And you can take up space emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, through the senses. And this is my favorite one: is if you ride the train in New York City, and you have your Bluetooth speaker on because you didn't bring your fucking headphones to listen to your own music. So you're blasting your shit music over a $10 Bluetooth speaker that has no bass to it and it's all scratchy because the tweeter's blown out. You're that guy.
Tell us how you really do.
And your shitty music through your shitty speakers playing through the entire subway car, and now everyone's aggravated or disturbed or annoyed or enjoying the music. So you have effectively taken up more space by your actions.
Yeah.
Right? Now, grieving or sadness, that's another way of taking up space in either something that happens between you and a partner, or someone on the street, right? You bump into someone, they fall and they hurt their knee, and it's like, oh my God, I feel bad. And it's like there's a level of taking up space in that sense of time and emotion going into, and this is not a negative thing. It's just
because I was trying to track
change
this,
a change of where your time and energy goes.
Yeah, I mean, because there's definitely situations where people take up more space, too much space, with emotion.
Like the fucking stalker.
Well, and mental health. People can take up too much space with untreated mental health.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right? The crazy people on the train, the crazy people on the block, right? We're here in New York City, and there's the woman who we saw in the mall who looks like the woman, like, people like that can take up space.
So there was a person I was trying to help one time. It was about 10 years ago. And they were homeless, and I was trying to get them help, and they just wouldn't take it. And the amount of time, like, and it was winter time, and it was like, how much time I spent thinking about it, right? And again, it's not a negative thing. It's just an awareness of that's how I was affected. I affect people that way, right? Am I aware of what I'm doing? Am I aware of how much space I'm taking in people's minds?
Yeah, I mean, as this hour rounds out, if I was going to charge anyone with something, just be aware of the spaces that you're in the next day or two. And then be aware of how much space you do or don't take up in the spaces that you're in. But sometimes I think there's value in just making yourself aware of the spaces that you inhabit.
This is a great fucking list. I want to finish the list. So what taking up space is not: seek to be the loudest person in the room, say something just to say it, say no to everything, grow completely careless about your behavior, aim to see yourself as flawless.
The saying something just to say it comes under the category of just because you can doesn't mean you should.
How to break out of your shell and take up more space. I like this a lot.
Yeah.
Build self-awareness. Reflect on your feelings and beliefs about taking up space. Practice self-compassion. Breaking out of your shell can be hard and scary. Make sure you treat yourself with kindness and compassion, and remember that it's okay to make mistakes or feel vulnerable when you're learning to take up space. Use self-affirmations and positive self-talk. I've always been curious about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've done it or I do. Have you ever seen me do that?
What, self-talk?
Yeah.
Or positive affirmation? No, what I don't see is you doing a lot of negative self-talk.
I do that constantly. Like
So is that really under the radar that like I don't ever see?
No,
you
no,
talking
no.
bad about yourself?
No. I am aware. Like that is something I don't do.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So you don't need this is in response to the fact that you have negative voices in your head, and you need using self-affirmations and positive talk is to counter negativity that happens in your own head. For some of us, it happens without. I don't do it on purpose. I am just programmed for years to talk badly to myself, and so the conscious use of self-affirmations and conscious positive self-talk helps to counter the voices in my head, which allows me to take an appropriate amount of space.
Set tiny, actionable goals.
That's true.
Yeah, do shit that you can do.
Right.
Like, because it's like, it builds confidence. And with confidence comes space. I will focus on my body language.
As she sits up. I sit up straight 8,000 times a day. Because 7,099 times at the end of the day, I find myself doing this. And then I say to myself, okay, cat, sit up.
You had the core set out. Smile as you pass a coworker. I'll do that every time.
Yeah, I do that too.
Sit up straight to subtly enhance your visibility, and make eye contact when someone's talking to you. Eye contact's a big fucking thing.
Yeah.
Practice eye contact as much when you're listening to someone. Unless you are hard of hearing, you need to turn the ear and just tell them, listen, I'm listening to you. I just need to hear. 'Cause sometimes I need to do that. Sometimes I need to focus on something and hear exactly what they're telling me. So I won't look at you directly in the eyes. But I'm just that much more focused on what you're saying.
But people who have self-esteem issues, people who don't feel worthy, have a very hard time looking someone else in the eye. Yeah. It's because they don't think they deserve it. So sometimes, again, looking someone in an eye is a behavioral way of countering an emotional condition, right? The more I look you in the eye, the more I act like someone who has self-esteem, I can become someone who has self-esteem. This is that act your way into right feeling, right? By taking the action of someone with self-esteem, I can get self-esteem, right? What do people who have self-esteem do? They hold their heads up, they look people in the eye, they speak what they hold up their end of a conversation, and you can walk yourself through those behaviors even if you don't feel like it, because you're choosing to want to be someone who has self-esteem, so you can emo, watch that phrase. We're biased against that phrase around here.
Yeah, I hear you saying everything but that.
Because what I'm trying to do is frame it in a way that's, you're not faking anything. You're behaving as someone who.
What that made me write down as a question is, what do you know about the person you are? I am X. I am X. I am X. So that. Give me a second. So that you're saying it, and then, well, why are you that? So we can validate that. And I'll tell you what. Hold on. Why are you that? I'm gonna tell you why that's important. So, the fake it till you make it, the body language, self-talk. Well, who am I? Well, what do you know about the person that you are? Give me examples of, what should a person give examples of to describe the person that they are? Give me an example of what?
No, I guess I'm not clear what you're asking, because in this case, for me, what we're talking about are two different things. There's the person who I believed myself to be.
No, that's not the question.
So what is the question?
What do you know about the person you are?
So give me an example of what a statement like that would look like.
Are you honest?
Yes.
How are you honest?
Because I tell the truth, and I don't hide.
Do you tell the truth all the time?
I tell the truth to the degree that I'm aware of it at the time. There are times later where I look back
all the time,
as much as I can.
So that process is what I'm talking about. It's almost like an interrogation of identity.
So really looking hard at who I am.
Give me an example. What do you mean that you're honest? Give me another example. So that the person has to tell you. But then in their sharing, they're validating it. Because, oh shit, then you reflect on it and it's like, well, look, this is who you are. Mm-hmm. Because you said so yourself. Mm-hmm. Now how are you going to refute that? You just told me. It's more of the Jedi mind tricks that the mentees are going to go. Any mentees on the call? Forget you just heard this.
I will still assert, though, that there's a difference between who you are and how you feel about yourself based on all of the stuff we've talked about.
Yeah.
And that sometimes there can be a gap between acting more like the person who you really are, even if you're stuck in the feeling of who you're not. And the behavior will make your feeling match the truth of who you really are.
Uh-huh. And I just wrote down, why do you feel like that?
Right.
What got you to that feeling?
Right. And my experience, you can call it anything you want, is that waiting for the feeling to change will not get me any closer to behaving like the person I really am.
This is how we do it, man. This is how it happens, right here in real time.
And it's 107.
Wait. We're almost done. I would do meditation, breathing, and relaxation practice for at least 5 minutes a day. Mindfulness, cool. Find support. You're doing great, buddy.
You're so believable when you say that.
Celebrate your achievements. Atta girl.
Yeah, you're so believable when you do all those things. You're like, buck up, kid.
No, this was a big deal.
Yeah.
This is my golden nugget for today. All right. So.
Well, I hope that we didn't miss important comments. Or goodness knows any questions. But thank you, all of the names that I see that are those of you that join us every day. It means a lot to me that you're here. I mean, I feel really validated and supported to know that you come back and have these conversations with us. And thank you for everything you put in the chat and what you have to share with us about your thoughts and feelings about these topics.
So I'll just read through here real quick. Mm-hmm. Attributes that make you confident, strong, etc. I'm not the most confident person, but I'm told all the time that I look and act like I am. Yes, I like this. Identifying the attributes and the cause. Awesome. Thank you, everyone, so much for your comments. Mm-hmm. This was a really cool link.
Okay.
And we're going to be putting out an ebook at the end of this mentorship group. And as we're going through these questions, what we're also doing is fleshing out the perspectives and the perspective and the uses of this information, so that when the person gets the ebook, they can read the question, you can process the question, and then you can have all this other information behind it to say, oh, I didn't think about that. And then you join the mentorship group later, and then you come with your answer, your awareness, and then you get to hear other people's interpretation.
Exactly. The ebook is going to be a way to do it yourself, and then if you want to help some help and support, you'll be able to see the value in doing the mentorship program.
Yeah, really cool, really cool. Thank you guys for doing this.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Wait.
Oh.
Question number 5. What have you given up on?
Think about that.
This is a good one, man.
We'll see you tomorrow for that.
We will see you guys tomorrow at noon. Talk to you in a bit.
Okay.